All right, guys, it's Dave Dean back again. In this video, we're going to be talking about putting a system together, right? And pretty much every vehicle comes, any vehicle that you're buying these days already comes with like Android Auto or Apple CarPlay or both, right? Sometimes it's even wireless these days. So we're going to start this basis on, we're not going to talk about this DAP in this video. We're just going to start the basis of, okay, you just bought a brand new vehicle and you have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in it. Now, you're like, the system's okay, but you want better sound quality, right? So what's the first step you should do? So the number one kind of first thing I would suggest to anybody after they've just bought a vehicle and then they want to upgrade their system, or even say you already have a vehicle and you just want to upgrade your system. Either of those two scenarios, right? The first thing you want to do, and I'm gonna put the screen up in front of you, and it's gonna list of all the different manufacturers out there, like businesses that actually do integration pieces. And what I'm talking about with an integration piece is, in my system, I have what's called a Pack Audio Amp Pro. So it's an integration piece that fits in. It comes with a harness, so it's just plug and play, right? Right into your system, and there's no cutting the wires, no nothing. And for me, I got the optical Tosh link out. It was an option, right, that I got because I ended up having a DSP in my car, but I'm going to get to that later with the DSP part of it. But you can either run RCAs, like six RCAs out of there into like either your amplifiers if you don't have a DSP, or if you have a DSP/amp, you can run that in there. But if you have a DSP or DSP amp that has a Tosh link input, right, which almost every single one does, you can run your optical Tosh link out of the Amp Pro straight into that. And out of all those companies that I posted in that picture, you can go on those sites and select whatever vehicle you have and see if they have an integration option for that vehicle. I can't tell you how crucial and important that is to see if it has an integration piece in it, because that's how you're going to get the best sound quality possible if you're trying to upgrade your factory OEM system, right? And still retain all your features. You're not losing anything whatsoever. It's just going to be able to let you add aftermarket amplifiers, aftermarket speakers, aftermarket amps / DSPs, right? Or just regular DSPs. It's going to let you add all those things, your subwoofers, everything, right? Aftermarket with one of those pieces, right? And I've had this vehicle for probably about 2 years now with this system in it. This is a pretty high-end system that I have in my vehicle, right? And I haven't had any issues with anything in my stereo. And I also had the Amp Audio Pack Pro. Sorry, the Pack Audio Amp Pro. I had that in my previous vehicle, and it was flawless too as well, right? So I suggest for people, look on their site first and then go to the other sites, right? Go to all the sites just in case you like one piece more than another, because there is other solutions. Like for my vehicle at the time, I could have put like a DSR1 in here, and I could have also put iData Maestro also made of pieces from my vehicle back then, right? And but with the iData Maestro, you had to have specific companies when it came to like their DSPs that worked with that unit, and I wanted to go with the Helix DSP, and that didn't work with that piece at that time, right? So for me, it was a no-brainer to go with the Pack Audio Amp Pro on my end, right? So search that site first, and then go along the list, and just all those sites are pretty straightforward, where most of them are just drop-down menus where you just put your you put like what year your vehicle is, the make and model number, and you'll see it's just like a drop down menu. It'll ask you if you got an amplified system, you know, you got the Bose system, Alpine system, that type of stuff. It'll ask you questions like that, and you just follow it along, and then eventually it gives you the solutions to what would work in your vehicle at the end, right? So that should be the number one thing that everybody does. Because trust me, guys, when I was like researching things, like I'm doing all the research so you don't have to, right? But when I research things like, you know, for hours and hours and hours, like hundreds of hours, I spent researching a lot of this stuff, right? Years ago, when I got the original, the Pack Amp Pro in my old system, right? And I've seen so many videos when I was doing my research of people doing like DIY, and they're just hacking into wires and making a mess of their system, right? Like of their vehicle, I should say, with the wires, when they could have just, and I'm talking about like the Jeep guys. When I was searching stuff, I was searching mainly like Jeep, because that's the Jeep Grand Cherokee is what I planned on buying at the time. So that's when I was searching that. Same thing when I had the Dodge Journey, I was searching different, you know, there's not a lot out there, but I was searching like guys that this is how you install an amplifier in a Dodge Journey or a Jeep Grand Cherokee. And then you watch their video, and I'm like, why are they not using an amp pack, you know, the Amp Pro? Like, why are you hacking into wires and stuff in your vehicle? One guy was complaining about he like lost a couple of features. It's like, yeah, you kind of don't really know what you're doing, and you're hacking into your system, right? And the whole time, and then some of them I'd just make a comment. So then if anybody else went there, it's like, I would say, guys, do not do what this guy is doing. Just buy the Pack Audio Amp Pro, and I give them the model number and give them the link, right? So if anybody came to that video, they would know to do that rather than what these guys were doing, right? So yeah, it's because there's a lot of misinformation out there online on YouTube channels and like all over the place, right? So that's why, you know, I've been wanting to do a video like this for a while now. I was like, you know what, it's time to do this video, because I just seen the thing this last night when I was like going through, and I seen this guy's video, and he was putting a system in there, and I didn't even know if there was an Amp Pro from it, but I looked it up online. I was like, there's an Amp Pro for it. So I went and put the model number and everything in the comment section on here. I was like, guys, you really don't want to do this, because he was like hacking his system apart, right? And at the end of the day, his sound quality is not going to be as good as if he would have bought this piece, right? Because here's what happens, right? If you got garbage in, garbage is going to come out, right? So if you got a high noise floor, depending on how you hook your system up, and if you got a high noise floor right off the bat, guess what happens when you add any other products after that? You're going to have even a higher noise floor, right? So you want to start off with the best connection you can possibly have right off the bat, right? And so that's like the very first thing you want to do is that. So the second thing you would want to do is, and there's a lot of complicated systems out there, but the second thing you want to do these days is you want to look for either a DSP or a DSP/amp, right? So I'm always going to recommend Helix, because it's been in my vehicle, and I'm not just saying I have a Helix DSP Ultra. I'm not just saying recommend that. Recommend any of their products. I've heard a lot of their products in cars that have been properly tuned now, and they all sounded great, right? And I'm always going to recommend products that I've had experience with. Somebody asked me in a comment the other day, actually today, can you do a review on this amplifier? Can you tell me if it's any good or not? And it's like, and it was some amp from like Denmark or whatever. And I was like, I have no idea. I've never even heard the brand before in my life. And I was like, I can't recommend anything that I haven't personally heard, right? In a vehicle, and heard for a long time, not just like a 5-minute, oh, I went into this vehicle, listened to it for 5 minutes, and that's it, right? Something that I've either like owned or had a lot of experience with, because I don't see what the point is for somebody to go look at specs on something online and then, oh yeah, that's a great amp or whatever. How do you know it's a great amp, right? It's the same kind of thing as when people do an amp dyno test. Well, sure, it produced the numbers, or it didn't produce the numbers, or it produced a little bit more numbers. But how do you know if it's going to be producing those numbers more than a minute or more than a 12-hour trip from Edmonton to Vancouver? Or is it going to last me 6 months or a year or whatever? And they're fun videos, don't get me wrong, but all it's showing is, okay, it didn't produce power, it did produce the recommended power, or it exceeded it. That's all it's doing. It's not going to tell you how long that amplifier is going to last. It doesn't tell you if it's going to sound good. It doesn't tell you anything, right? So I couldn't recommend it. But when it comes back to the Helix products, I can recommend them because I believe they have the best software out there still today in 2022, right? And their products, I haven't had any issues with them whatsoever. It works flawless. And at the end of the day, when you go get a product, you just want it to work every time you use it, right? So back to that, your second choice is you're going to either get an amp/DSP, right? Or you're going to get a DSP, standalone DSP, and amplifiers to go with that. And the nice thing about all the new products, and not even just from Helix, Brax, Match, like the Audio Fisher lineup, not only from them, but other companies are coming out, and a lot of their amp/DSPs now, they'll give you, say, like 6 channels of amplification, or 8 or 10 or 12, but then they give you even more DSP channels, right? So I've seen lots of them that come out, give you 6. I'll take the Helix, the M DSP, right? The Helix, I forget the exact model on there, but it's the 6 channel. It gives you 6 channels, and it's the M lineup. It gives you 6 channels of amplification, and then it gives you 10 channels of DSP, right? So somebody that's just getting into it and they don't want to spend huge amounts of money could get something like that. And then maybe they want more mid-bass later on. Maybe they start with like a 2-way system like I have, where it's like just a tweeter and then a 6.5 in the doors. Maybe they start with that and refill or rear fill, right? And or they don't have rear fill and they just do the subs. They just do like components up front, subwoofers in the back, but then eventually they want to run rears, and eventually maybe they want to run mids, and they have a 3-way system, right? So that's an easy one because it's giving you 10 channels, right? So you got 6 channels up front for a 3-way, you got your 2 for the rears, right? And then you got your subs. You're good. So it gives you that expandability without you having to go, oh, geez, I got to go sell this now. I got to take it out of my car and put something new in. No, it gives you those extra DSP channels where you can just add another amplifier to it depending on what you want. You want more bass on the subs, have a bigger amplifier for that job, right? And then maybe run the two that were running your subs to begin with. You put those on your rears, or vice versa. However you want to do it. The point is it's expandability where you don't have to like sell the product that you have, right? So that's why I really like a lot of the products that come out these days, especially like the amp/DSPs, where they give you those extra DSP channels for the upgradable path where you're not having to sell your stuff. So that's the second thing you want to do, is look into the DSP or DSP/amp. They're so tiny these days. You can install them really easy, and they're out of the way. They don't take up your room and your space in the back of your vehicle like my stuff does right now, right? And it's a tiny package, but excellent sound quality. And like I said, I'm going to put the link to the Audio Tech Fisher stuff in the description in the video. And I'm also going to put Chris and Larry's contact information, because they're the distributors in North America. Because some people are always asking me in the comment section. So I figured, you know what, I might as well just put it in the description. I'm going to put their number, and then they can set you up, whether you're in the States or Canada, they can set you up with the nearest distributor. Because the nice thing about that company is they train everybody the same. Everybody is going to know how to tune the DSP because they all get trained identical, right? And if you want to know, you can go look at some of my videos. Go look at the old Mecca one I did last year, where I came in first in the competition and second overall in all of Canada with every single event that they had last year for sound quality, right? And I just have a 2-way, and I beat all kinds of 3-way systems out there. Everybody I competed against had a 3-way system, right? So if you just look at the actual score, I scored an 82.5, right? And I know some of you guys already know this that have watched some of my other videos, but I just want to put that point out there. They know what they're doing, right? And I'll always recommend people, products, that type of stuff, if they do an excellent job, great customer service, and things work. And I'm telling you right now, things have worked in my system for almost, like, I've had the system in here for almost 2 years. Everything's like works flawlessly, right? So I'll put their link in the description. So that's the third thing, right? So we got first, your integration piece, right? I put all the links up there. You go check those links out to those websites, punch in the make and model of your vehicle, and find out if they got an integration piece for your vehicle. Second, you're looking at a DSP standalone with amplifiers, or you're looking at a DSP with an amplifier and all-in-one unit, right? So third would be your speakers, right? And if you don't have a ton of money and you're looking for like an all-in-one amp / DSP solution, if you don't mind waiting a little while and saving up for your speakers, just have them hook it up with your factory speakers. And don't laugh here, because your sound quality is gonna be so much better than it was with your factory system by just adding an amp / DSP. Trust me. If you don't believe me, once again, call Larry or Chris and they will tell you how good it sounds even with your factory speakers. So if you don't have a ton of money, that's why I went in order of things to buy, because you're going to get that amp / DSP installed, and you're going to have a great system, and you're going to use your Android Auto or your Apple CarPlay, and you're going to be happily ever after until you save up that money for your speakers, right? So speakers, you know what? I should probably turn this off. I don't want to wreck the battery on here. But speaker wise, for me personally, I found buying the speakers the hardest part of when I put my system together, right? And that's why I saved it to last, right? The speakers, and I'm including subwoofers and that kind of stuff in there. But speakers, subs, to me, that's the most difficult decision out of all of them, because first of all, you have to find out what fits, right? So originally I was actually going to go with the Brax, the highest end Brax speakers in my system, but the tweeters were almost like double the size of what you're seeing right here. And then I'd have to do a custom panel. And at the time, I didn't want to be doing any kind of custom panels in here. And if I would have went with those, then I would have went with the actual mids as well, right? And I would have had to do A-pillars too at the time. And I didn't want to be doing that at that time. I spent quite a bit of money on my system already there. And I was like, you know what? And I was undecided on what I wanted to do. So that's one of the main reasons why I went with the Audio Frogs. I seen another picture online where a guy had the tweeters installed here, and he had the mids in the A-pillar, and it looked really nice. And I was like, okay. And I heard so many good things about the Audio Frogs. That's why I went with the Audio Frog GB10s here for tweeters. And then I went with the GB60s down here, right? And the GB60s are one of the best, if not still the best, mid-bass speaker you can buy. So that was my determining factor, right? Because you want to get the right speaker for the application, right? And if you can do all kinds of custom work, then honestly, you can get whatever speaker you want, right? If you want to do custom A-pillars or whatever. And eventually I'm going to do custom A-pillars anyways at some point in time. But at that point in time, I was undecided. I didn't really know what to do. And then same thing with my subwoofers. I knew I was going to go with the Helix Q10Ws, because that's going to be your final pick in your system. Your speakers, are you going to go with rear speakers? Are you going to go with component speakers? And that's going to be individual based on your car, right? What car do you have? What locations you have, right? What's going to look the best? What's going to sound the best in your vehicle? But to me, that's the hardest pick. I could have went with quite a few different speakers. I probably would have been happy regardless of what speakers I went with, right? Because the rest of my system is kind of up to par. And that's when you kind of do a little bit of research, right? When you go to whatever company you're going to go to, whatever car dealership or car audio dealership that you're going to go to, one thing I can say is make sure they have a demo vehicle, right? I went to multiple, and I mean multiple places. I live in Edmonton, Alberta, but I went to tons of places around here. And then I also went into Red Deer and I went into Calgary, right? And it's when I went into Calgary, and honestly, it was one of the few places that had demo vehicles there, right? And I always suggest, unless you have a friend or somebody that you've listened to their vehicle and you know it sounds really good, if you're going to be buying a car stereo system, they have to have a demo car. Listening to speakers on the wall is not the same. That's like listening to your home's speakers at home, right? In a car, you have all these different reflections, so it's not gonna sound the same on the board as it's going to in your vehicle, right? And obviously, that's what a DSP is for, right? But still, have a demo car. And obviously, the demo car can't have every speaker that's on the boards, but you'll get a really good idea because almost everybody that has a demo car these days has a DSP in it. So you're going to get an excellent kind of demo on what this shop is capable of, right? I wouldn't buy anything from anywhere that doesn't have a demo vehicle, that can't show their products in an actual vehicle that's tuned, right? Because you're going to know, anybody can show you like pictures of what their installs did over the years. Like anybody can do that. You're going into car audio because you want to hear what it sounds like. So they need a demo vehicle, right? And so I highly suggest you listen to the vehicles from whatever place you're going to, right? And that's why when I went to Mobile Solutions there was only a few places that had demo cars, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a demo car. It could be like, the installer's car or whoever, as long as you get a demo of that music in the actual vehicle. That's so important, right? But there was a few people, they didn't really have a demo car. They had, like I said, they had either the installer had his own car or whatever, even better yet, right? So you can see the work he's did. So one of the places I went to, Red Deer, the installer had, his vehicle was all done up, right? And it sounded really good, but it didn't have a DSP in it, right? He just had everything passive. It still sounded really good. His work that he did, his custom work that he did, like on the sides and stuff, like his doors were excellent. His subwoofer box and everything else was really nice, right? Really good work. But it wasn't until I went to Mobile Solutions where I got to actually hear demos. They have a demo vehicle as soon as you walk in. I didn't get to hear that one, but I heard a couple other demo vehicles Larry let me listen to in the actual shop that they were finishing up on. And Chris and Larry both have demo vehicles too. And I got to listen to Larry's vehicle, and it was just the match system, right? And I think his was was it the Mercedes Benz? I can't remember which vehicle he has now. I can't remember. I think it was Mercedes Benz, but I could be wrong. But I got to listen to it, and it sounded really good, right? And it was tuned properly. And that was the first time I listened to an actual properly tuned vehicle there. And like I said, I already did my research before I even went there. So I already knew like Helix was still considered probably the best DSP on the market at that point in time, right? I know those Zapco guys out there, they're going to probably say some stuff in the comments, but Zapco's, like, their AP amps are excellent. Their 16 channel high-end HD DSP. And I can't say that because I've never heard it, but I've heard they sound really good. But I also heard that they have a lot of software issues still, right? From one of the events that they just had not too long ago, there's quite a few cars that had issues with their systems based on the software issues, right? So don't come at me. Don't come at me, the Zapco guys out there. But getting back to these things, that's basically, your subs would be the last thing, but your speakers, you're basically just getting to what fits where, what's going to fit properly there. And then you're on to your subwoofers, right? And your subwoofers, that's difficult too, because there's SPL subwoofers out there, there's sound quality subwoofers out there. There's kind of like in the middle subwoofers out there. There's cheap brands, there's like middle of the road brands, there's expensive brands, and then there's like the ultra, rich subs out there too, right? Pick what you like. Listen, like I said, get out there, listen to a few vehicles, right? See what you like, right? Because it's going to vary. Again, it's just like speakers. It's going to be what you prefer. What I might like might not be the same thing you might like. I don't like loud SPL vehicles, right? I listened to a few of them in my younger years, and I didn't even like sit. I had a car that went over 140, and that was loud enough for me back in the day, right? I don't need anything like 150, 160, 170. And you're not going to ever catch me sitting in a vehicle where it's like 170 and I got a smile on my face with no earplugs or anything. You're never going to see one of those videos. You might see a video of me trying to blow up a subwoofer or something like that at some point in time. Just see how much power something takes until it just like tears apart. But I'm never going to sit in a vehicle that's like 170 with a big grin on my face while my ears bleed. That ain't going to happen. So pick what you like when it comes to that. Figure out if you want sealed or ported, right? You got to figure kind of like what you want in those areas on your own, right? There's lots of great subwoofers out there, lots of great brands. You can buy stuff if you're just starting out that are fairly cheap off Amazon, or you can go into like whatever you want, right? The price ranges are just like speakers. They start pretty low and they go all the way up, right? And a lot of people would probably say start with your speakers. I say no, not anymore. Not in today's world. You want to go in the order where I just picked, right? Speakers are kind of like last on the list. Like I said, you can change the first two things. You can have the integration into your system, and then you can have that DSP with amps or DSP with an amp all in one solution, and use your factory speakers, and it's still gonna sound so much better than what your factory system originally sounds like, right? Like, and I mean on a whole nother level, right? And then at that point in time, then you decide what speakers you want to put in your car, right? Because when you put your speakers in your car, you want to add some sound deadening, at least in your front doors, right? At least. And then if you can go crazy enough, then you want to do your back of your vehicle and if you got rear speakers, you do your rear doors as well. But the most, for sound deadening, you definitely want to have your front doors sound deadening, especially if you're putting in quite a bit of power, right, into them. But highly recommend doing those at the time you put your speakers in. Don't do them afterwards, because the least amount of time you have to take this door out and put it back on, take it out, put it back on. That's when things start, snapping apart and breaking apart. And then you got to go to your dealership to find different grommets and whatnot. So I figured I'd do this video because there's not a lot of videos out there right now that's kind of doing like a step-by-step process on people that are looking to put aftermarket car audio systems in there. And of course, there's a lot of guys that on my channel that already know all this, that watch a lot of my videos. But you guys have to remember, there's so many people out there that might want to get into the car audio world and they just don't know where to start, right? And turn this back on. You can get, like I said, excellent sound quality right out of your Android Auto or Apple CarPlay just by doing the steps I mentioned there, right? But that integration piece is so important, like extremely important. Oops. So important at the start of your process, right? That's the most important thing, is find out if there's a piece available. So that's it, guys. I hope this is going to help some people that are just, looking to add aftermarket amps, DSPs, speakers, and whatnot to their system. For those of you that follow me already, you already have a system or whatnot. This isn't necessarily, obviously, for you guys. This is more for guys that are just getting into it and kind of don't know where to start, or don't even know about integration pieces, right? And don't know much about DSPs and that type of stuff. But that's kind of the order you can start at, and I advise to do that first, the integration piece, and then you figure out if you want an amp and a standalone DSP, or an all-in-one DSP amp. And then you're going to go into your speakers and your subs, and then the sound deadening and whatnot, right? All right, guys, that's it for me. We'll see you on the next one.